Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, the show where we talk about professional wrestling and if it makes sense or not, and other stuff as well that, you know, regards professional wrestling, I suppose. I'm
Uh,
killing all these intros, huh?
I know, they just keep getting better and better.
I'm on like a fucking Goldberg streak right now. Was it 180?
172.
Was it 172 or was it 182?
I think it was 172.
Because they kept changing the number.
Yeah.
WCW, like Goldberg would be in his seventh match, and like he's 100, and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell? And oh fuck, Goldberg. We were talking about Goldberg, were we?
Yeah, well, he kind of promised to show up to the Thunderdome last week, but then
He fucking didn't do anything.
yeah, I don't know if he like appeared on one of the screens or something, but it had no effect on the show whatsoever. Like no interaction with Roman Reigns, he was kind of like making a point of sort of warning that he was coming to SmackDown and stuff. And yeah, it was just really weird.
What a lazy bastard. And I'm sure I'm not the only person to say that about Goldberg. But yeah, I had heard he was on one of the screens. He was like, I'm gonna be keeping an eye on SmackDown. So he
Mm,
like got one of the screens so he could look at it. I'm like, you could have kept an eye on it without doing that, you know. You could have turned up to the arena. You could have watched it on TV like everybody else was doing.
yeah.
You had options, and you picked the one that made no impact whatsoever. You know, nice work, Goldberg. So I feel like that's something to look forward to in a couple of months, somewhere
Uh,
between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. We're gonna get a Goldberg.
well, I mean, it was kind of predictable considering they never had the Goldberg Roman Reigns match at WrestleMania like they planned. But Jesus, I mean, does anyone really want to watch that?
Nope, I don't think so. But they're gonna do it probably. You know what I like about Goldberg is that it seems like he's got a 2 match per year deal.
hmm
So this year we saw him at the Saudi Arabia show that was in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, and then he was at
Mm,
WrestleMania.
yeah.
Right? I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that that is exactly the same schedule he's gonna work in 2021. The pay per view before WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania, and then he's gonna go home again. So I mean, it's good money if you can get it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't begrudge the guy at all for working
No,
2 dates a year.
right? God, I love to work 2 days a year
And
and do
he's only working like, 4 or 5 minutes per match as well. So,
exactly. Wouldn't that be the sweetest job of all?
ah, geez.
Can you imagine being so good at your job that at some point they promote you to a position where you just turn up 2 days a year for 5 minutes and they pay you like £100,000?
I'm not gonna lie, that would be my ideal job.
It would be the fucking best, wouldn't it? That would be amazing. And you can just half-ass the 5 minutes you're there.
Yeah.
You don't even have to make it good. Just so long as you're there for 5 minutes and people can see you, they're like, well, that justifies that 100 grand. See you later.
It's not as
You
if Goldberg's got a reputation as, like, a great technical wrestler to live up to or anything as well.
know? Exactly. All he has to do is just turn up and be Goldberg,
Yeah.
which is easy. I could turn up and be Goldberg, you know? I shave my head, hit my head off a ring post, take a loss at some point. Easy.
And, if you tried to jackhammer someone, you'd probably fall over as well, so
Fucking goddamn right. I guarantee you, I would not be able to lift the Undertaker off for Jackhammer. That's a stone cold fact right there. Um, oh Goldberg, what a wonderful man. So that's what we've got to look forward to soon. We're gonna get some Goldberg action. But before Goldberg, well, maybe he'll make an appearance on Sunday. We don't know, but well before Goldberg makes any kind of in-ring appearance again, we're gonna have Hell in a Cell, but
Yep.
not just one Hell in a Cell, because those cells are really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon's like, I got to get my money's worth out of this Cell. Not like with Goldberg. It's a totally different thing. But with the Hell in a Cell, I got to get my money's worth out of it. So put as many of these fucking matches in cells as you can. What was this in TNA or was this in WWE where they had a show that was just all like cage matches?
Oh, that was TNA. That was Lockdown.
Oh my god, how poignant. Oh boy. They were ahead of the curve there, weren't they?
They sure were.
Oh, if everybody was locked down inside cages and like and what if we put Boris Johnson in a Hell in a Cell and Dominic Cummings in a different one. So now you're like, hey man, was it Dominic Cummings that fucking drove all across the UK?
Yeah, that
All right,
bastard.
stick him in a Hell in a Cell. Like you can't get out. You're not allowed to get out. You're inside the cell. Because there's no way that fucker's breaking out of the cell. You know what I mean? He's not ripping the door off at any time soon. He's not fucking spearing Brock Lesnar at the side. He's stuck in that cell. Like this is how we know you're not going anywhere. All right, because you can't be trusted. You're a fucking idiot. So inside the cell, what if he put him and Johnson in the same cell?
But would they have to fight each other then?
They wouldn't have to. They'd probably like try to figure out a way to work together while stabbing each other in the back. The way Tories do.
I
Yeah.
feel like we should put someone in there with them though, just to kind of give them the whole Hell in a Cell experience.
Well, I would want them to fight each other, but like I don't know if they would, because like let's be honest here, those two gentlemen, they're not fighters.
No.
They might, Boris Johnson might make it seem like he's some kind of scrappy, plucky British underdog, full of the spirit of Britain. But he's not. Like I could take him in a fight. I could lift him up for a jackhammer, I think.
I don't know. He is quite fat.
Well, Dominic Cummings, I think I could lift him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It wouldn't be a good jackhammer, but I could do it. I just kick Boris Johnson in the dick. That would cripple him a lot, I think, because he has so many mistresses.
Mm-hmm.
How have they seen him? Are they all blind? What the fuck? Do they not know he's like the most despicable person in England right now? Like how does he always end up with like a load of mistresses? I don't how?
Yeah, it's pretty baffling, but then I guess that just goes to show that it doesn't matter what you look like or what you sound like, but if you have lots of money and you're quite powerful, the women will love you.
Well, that's good to know for me. That means that all I have to do is become prime minister.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, I mean, it must be easy if Boris Johnson can do it. Anyway, Hell in a Cell, right? So that's this. It's the time of this recording. It's going to be this Sunday, which I think is the 25th.
That's correct.
25th of August. Yay, I know numbers. So
October.
at the moment, huh?
You said August.
Fuck.
You know numbers, but you don't know dates.
Yeah. Well, I was so pleased with myself for knowing numbers because I'm notoriously bad with numbers. So it's rare that I would get the numbers right, but the dates wrong. The dates is the easy bit. I don't know why I fucked that one up. All right. Hey, it turns out I'm an idiot, so I really am qualified to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think of that, Boris Johnson? I bet he's got to listen to the show.
Yeah, he's crying into his Frosties right now.
He eats Frosties. Yeah, but like gold leaf Frosties or something. The fancy Frosties we don't get, which is weird because Frosties are pretty fucking good. So if he's getting different Frosties, I'm like, now I really want to be Prime Minister. So to get back on track, the 25th of October.
Yep.
Is Hell in a Cell. We're 5 days away from it.
That's correct.
Again with the numbers, but we've got 4 matches booked.
Yes.
This does not bode well, generally, for a show when you're less than a week away. When you've got one show left to establish what the pay-per-view is going to be, which would be
Mm.
SmackDown. It's not a good sign when there are 4 matches officially booked, because there's going to be another 4 probably, plus another one on the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like half a pay-per-view down right now.
Yeah, and well, 3 of those matches actually Hell in a Cell matches as well.
Oh. At least they did the smart thing of booking the Hell in a Cell matches before the show.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have been stupid if they'd only announced, what was the other one, Elias versus Jeff Hardy?
Yeah, yeah.
It would have been pretty stupid if they were like, Elias versus Jeff Hardy, plus some other stuff. You'll find out on Sunday. Sasha Banks versus Bayley is going to be in the Hell in a Cell.
That's correct.
Everybody, I think, is pretty excited about that, because that's a storyline that has been developing really well for the last year, probably.
If you want to be really technical about it's
Because
been the last 4 or 5 years, really, because it's well, it kind of started in NXT with the rivalry they had there, but then they kind of both came up to the main roster, and then started teaming together and like making the push for the women's tag team titles and stuff. And then I think it seemed like they were going to have this big split because they were constantly falling out in matches and stuff. But then all of a sudden they were back on the same page, and then everything kind of went back to normal. And then they did bring in the women's tag team titles, and ever since then they've kind of been riding high. Yeah, so it's been a long time coming.
Right, they've been teasing it for a while, and Sasha Banks and Bayley both very, very good at what they do. So it's been a fun storyline to kind of watch and see how it all plays out. This is the one probably with the most build to it. But it's really, like, it's been a well-told story, I think. There's definitely been a couple of ups and downs where you and me were like, are they gonna do this or not? Like, what the hell? But I think they've done a really good job of, for the most part, of delivering a really good storyline here. We've been very critical about wrestling during the pandemic, and the WWE in general, have been have been really up and down. More down than up, I think, for a lot of it. But this storyline has been pretty solid for a long time. They've got this right, I think. I think that's safe to say that for the most part they've got this one right.
Yeah, I mean, Bayley and Sasha Banks as a team together, like their whole run this year has been I was so much fun to watch. Like they've been great characters, and they were all over both Raw and SmackDown, and did a great job of sort of subtly teasing the dissension in the ranks and stuff, and like with little looks here and there and comments, and like volunteering each other for the occasional match that the other didn't really want to have and stuff like that. So it's been like a really, really solid story to get to this point. And like you say, it feels like it's kind of really earned as well, this Hell in a Cell stipulation, because after everything this year, and then if you want to go back even further, it's just, yeah, it's arguably like the best told story in WWE for 2020.
I would argue it's the best story being told in wrestling right now in 2020. I can't think of like any other company that's got a storyline with this much like depth and longevity and build to it, really.
Yeah.
And what's really good about Sasha versus Bayley in the Hell in a Cell is that, like, one, they're gonna do really well at it. But two, like, this isn't just it's not just thrown together. Like, the WWE, I think it gets criticism, and rightly so sometimes, for and not just the WWE, I think a lot of wrestling companies do, for just kind of like doing something involving the women just for the sake of doing it.
Mm.
You know, like it's like, oh, women's revolution. I'm like, well, you're just doing like, because didn't they do a Hell in a Cell match before?
Not Sasha and Bailey. I think it was Sasha and Charlotte.
Yes, but I'm like, the way they got to that point, it kind of made sense, but it was also like they kind of hashed it up, and it seemed a little bit that they were just kind of trying to do the first women's Hell in a Cell match rather than the culmination of a good feud, right?
Yeah,
Because that feud was a bit messy, right?
yeah.
But with this one, you're like, well, this is a perfect fit. Like this makes sense. They're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. This is a really good way for them to end this feud.
Mm.
And these are two people who could do that really well. You know?
Absolutely.
So I'm excited about this match. I'm very excited about that one. But then you get to the other two Hell in a Cell matches that I'm less excited about. Like
Mm.
I'll talk about Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton real quick. We've said this a bunch of times in the show. Drew McIntyre has been a shining light in the pandemic. He's been a wonderful, wonderful man. Great champion, great matches, great promos.
Mm-hmm.
If we do an end of year kind of like highlight show, I think one of them would be, which is a concept I've only just come up with. Like, I haven't put any thought into it, but I'm like Drew McIntyre deserves some kind of mention for just being like consistently good for months. He's been a real highlight of their program, I think. And Randy Orton, we all know how good Randy Orton is. He's had a hell of a year. He's had some good wins, good matches, good build up to stuff. I am not opposed to that. What I am opposed to is I think this is the third month in a row we've had Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
Which, I mean, like we're just after talking about Sasha and Bailey doing a really good job of building up their storyline that's been going on for, a year or 2 years or 3 or 4 years if you want to be technical about it, and it hasn't got old. But that's because they weren't fighting each other every month. You know what I mean?
Well, I think with this though, at least they've done a good job of kind of protecting both guys and not having like a super clean finish. So like in their first match, they had the thing where they were both going for their finishes, neither one could hit it, and then it ended with Drew McIntyre getting the win with like arguably sort of a cheap roll up or backslide pin, rather than definitively putting Randy Orton away. And then in the second match, the ambulance match they had, that's where Randy Orton had all of the legends that he'd punted coming back and kind of getting a measure of revenge, and like even like just through the nature of the gimmick as well, like throwing someone in the back of an ambulance and shutting the door isn't like that definitive. It's not like pinning someone in the middle of the ring. So like Randy Orton, even though he's lost those two matches, he's kind of still got a legitimate claim that Drew McIntyre hasn't beat him properly. So yeah, and I guess with the way like the intensity's picked up over the summer months into the autumn, it's kind of deserving of a Hell in a Cell stipulation, but I mean, I can see where some people might think not really.
I mean, I get it. I do. But I mean, you would feel this has got to be the one that Drew doesn't win.
Definitely.
Which is kind of a shame because I think Drew has done such a good job this year, like we said. But I feel like it's just going to culminate in some kind of like, new WrestleMania match for next year.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton.
I would suspect it's more likely to be Edge versus Randy Orton again with the rubber match, but with the WWE Championship on the line.
Do you think will they have fans in by then? They could probably have
Ugh,
a couple of fans, a couple of boys.
a couple of boys, yeah. I think it's if they did something like AEW are doing, where they do sort of limited entry and people have to like sign up for tickets in their own little like pods and stuff. And yeah, so there's not much cross contamination or whatever, but they could do that, but whether they want to or not, who knows?
Well, we'll see, I guess, right?
Mm,
We'll just have to wait and see. Lucky us.
a
So
lot can
yeah,
happen between now and WrestleMania, that's for sure.
God no, yeah, exactly. We could get another pandemic. That'd be great. The entire world could just explode and die, which I feel like we're getting pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be fun. That's something to look forward to, I suppose. Um, yeah. So I'm not like. I mean, I think it'll be a good, fun match, but I'm not super excited about this one.
Mm,
Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso.
yep.
Also not super excited about. I think it'll be a good match, but I feel that the purpose of doing Uso versus Reigns at the last pay-per-view made sense because it told a really good story in that specific month, in that like little time frame.
Mm,
And then Roman Reigns can move on to other things because there are other main eventers on SmackDown,
mm,
not just Jey Uso. It felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, and because of that, the story that they told made sense for it to be a one-off. You know, it didn't. I would say this is the one that almost doesn't really justify being in the Hell in a Cell. But then they made an I Quit match.
mm.
And I like the idea of an I Quit match inside a Hell in a Cell because the Hell in a Cell structure, you can't get out. I mean, you can get out. Historically, there have been many, many instances when they got out they got out in the first one,
Yeah, yeah.
didn't they? Fucking Shawn Michaels is climbing up the side. They got out of the first Hell in a Cell. God damn it! So obviously, and they didn't even. They were like, nope, the design is still fine. There's even though we fucked it up the first time, I'm sure it'll never happen again. And then fucking Mick Foley falls through the middle of it. He trapped himself inside the cell. That's how clever he is. Everybody else is getting out. He's like, no, I'm getting in, accidentally or not. But I do like the idea of I Quit match inside the Hell in a Cell because the idea is you're supposed to be trapped inside the structure with
Mm,
nowhere to go and nowhere to run. Therefore, and they're also well known for being very brutal matches in the Hell in a Cell. So that kind of adds to the tension and the escalation of violence. I find that interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be a great match, but I just in terms of build, I don't think Jey Uso would have been the right guy for this. You know.
I kind of disagree in that I think that the story they told at the last pay-per-view was so good that it had more that they could wring out of it. So I'm not opposed to Jey Uso getting this second opportunity and stuff, but the only thing I have an issue with really is the fact that it is another Hell in a Cell match when it doesn't really need to be. Like, especially with the addition of the I Quit gimmick, like they could have just made it an I Quit match and not have another Hell in a Cell to kind of muddy the waters and make it even more difficult for like each Hell in a Cell match to kind of stand out on its own and not end up repeating itself. So yeah, I think that because of the way that match ended the first time around with Jey Uso refusing to quit and Jimmy having to end up like throwing the towel in for him, the I Quit stipulation is perfect for this. Like as a follow up, it plays into the story and You know, it feels like it's the natural progression in a way as well. But yeah, I just don't think it should have been Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, you raise a good point in that we're gonna see 3 Hell in a Cells. It's gonna be presumably in a row because they're all like pretty main event kind of thing.
Mm,
And if they've got the cell there, you may as well just leave it down for all 3 matches instead of like lifting it up and dropping it down and stuff like that. So you're probably gonna see 3 Hell in a Cell matches in a row. How are they gonna be different from each other? Like it's easy enough to do that whenever you get one a year. You
mm,
know, it's very easy because you got a year in between to think about it. But like, how do you take these 3 matches and make them different and unique? And we, I don't know, man. I feel like there's definitely gonna be some crossover at some point. Um, yeah, I don't know, man.
mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's one of those things we're just gonna have to watch it and see. And I'm hoping that if we watch it, it doesn't end up being a fucking train wreck, you know, because that's happened before. Um, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, you know, you've got 4 matches announced. What 3 of them are Hell in a Cell matches, so that's gonna be very hard to keep it interesting
Mm-hmm.
and different. So I don't know, man. What are the other matches that have been teased? Um, I don't really watch Raw or SmackDown, so I don't. I'm not 100% up with what's going on. But last I heard, Lana was fighting Asuka.
Yeah,
Is that
but
did that happen on Raw?
yeah, that happened on Raw, and Asuka won pretty decidedly. So
Well, here's the thing. Like, didn't Lana like win a battle royal or something?
yeah, she kind of snuck in at the end and walked out with the win.
Well, why do that if she's just gonna get her ass beat by Asuka?
I mean, maybe there's like a bigger storyline at play there, but if there is, we haven't seen any sign of it yet. So,
Okay, so I kind of hope that we don't get Asuka versus Lana
hmm
at Hell in a Cell. But then what else are we gonna get? Who's
well,
Asuka gonna fight?
Asuka after that match got attacked by Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. So potentially, maybe Asuka is going to end up like teaming with Lana to challenge for the women's tag team titles potentially, because I mean, there's nothing else for any of those women to do. So
Why not?
yeah.
Why not? I mean, they've already, yeah. I mean, they got rid of all their women tag teams, so
hmm
that was their problem. Fair enough. What else has been teased? Who else is? I assume there's going to be some kind of retribution match, right?
Well, I would have thought if there was, it would be retribution against the Hurt Business, but we kind of saw that on Raw as well this week,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
didn't go too well for retribution. So,
No.
but then maybe they could look at the rematch on the pay-per-view as like a sort of way for retribution to live up to their name.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
To see retribution get some retribution,
Mm.
which is about damn time because they've done fuck all so far.
Yes, they've
They
totally dropped the ball there.
really fucking hashed that one up, you know. And we really, whenever Ali was revealed as their leader, I was like, at least this is interesting. At least there's some intrigue here and some, you know, at least they can explain something with this, as
Mm.
opposed to just 4 fucking or 5 dudes from NXT who wear masks now. And like it needs to have something else to it. And having Mustafa Ali as a leader seemed like finally, finally we're gonna get something good and worthwhile and logical out of this. Which he kind of tried to do with his promo. I heard to tie it in with the hacker thing on SmackDown.
Yeah.
So like he's trying his best, and God bless him, man. He's one of those guys they really should be doing more with anyway.
Mm.
He's a great hand in the ring, you know, but he can talk as well. He's not bad, you know.
Mm.
He's the kind of guy like that you should focus on now because he'll be like a big star in a couple of years, right?
Do you
but
know
not
who he reminds me of? Like,
Billy Gunn.
no, I was gonna say like a modern day Stevie Richards, like,
Oh,
because like Stevie back in the day was sort of, yeah, he was never seen as like a major player or anything, even though he could talk and could wrestle. But then he kind of got given the right to censor gimmick and kind of against the odds made that work and kind of did really well with that. But then once that ran its course, he kind of got lost in the shuffle again. And that's kind of what I fear might happen to Mustafa Ali in this. Like, it should be the opportunity that kind of pushes him up the card and makes people sit up and take notice of him. But you just know that, like, the way WWE works and, well, like Vince McMahon specifically,
yeah.
he'll tire of it, and or Mustafa Ali will do one little thing that Vince doesn't like, and then that's it. He's kind of, shuffled back down the card again.
Yeah, that Stevie Richards thing is interesting. I can see that, but the problem, and this is probably the same problem that Mustafa Ali is about to have, but the problem that Stevie Richards had with the right to censor was that that group is never supposed to work anyway.
Mm.
It was supposed to just be a joke against whatever the um, parent committee is in
Parent
America.
Teachers Council, I think it was.
Yeah, that shit. So it was just a really half-assed. It was supposed to be a really half-assed joke at them. What
Mm.
do you think of this? Like, it was never supposed to go anywhere, which is a damn shame because it could have worked really well.
Yeah.
But they just didn't. They just didn't put any thought into it. And if the more you kind of mention that, the more it seems like this could be what retribution is. It's like a little flash in the pan deal that was never supposed to be big news to begin with.
Mm.
Which would be a damn shame, but also not at all surprising for that company. It's par for the course, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what else? Is that it? Like, what the fuck else is gonna happen on this show?
There's other possibilities. I mean, you still got Otis and Tucker kind of feuding with Morrison and Miz. You've still got um well, Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. That feud just does not seem to want to
Oh,
die.
I don't want that.
You got Sami Zayn potentially. I don't know. He's like the Intercontinental Champion, but now all of his challengers have gone over to Raw. So hopefully he'll find a new feud soon. But like, looking at the SmackDown roster, it's probably going to end up being Kevin Owens again, which, they have really good matches because they always do. But again, it's just like same old, really. Going back to the well again.
What if it was Big E?
I mean, that I could go for. That is the kind of thing where, like, I mean, it's been disappointing over the last 8 weeks or so, where Big E is supposedly, gearing up for this big singles push, but it's not really materialized. So, having him go for the Intercontinental title would be a good step towards that, I guess.
This could be it. This could
Yeah.
if we could finally see him. Doing something. He hasn't had the Intercontinental Championship in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When did he win it? 2011?
Oh, I don't think it was
2012?
quite that long ago, but yeah, I think 2012.
AJ Lee was around, so we're probably talking like 11 or 12, right?
It turns out it was 13.
Oh shit, dude. Well, we were, we knew it was around that era.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, all right. Well, he's due another run. 7 years, man. But then you
Indeed.
look at Sami Zayn. It's the first fucking title he had in what, just as long, 7 years.
Yeah.
So let him enjoy it a little bit longer. I think Sami Zayn's been doing very good work.
He's been a hell of a character.
Well, that's what's so good about him. He really is a character.
Mm.
He's so like he's kind of like he's cartoony, but not like over the top cartoony.
Mm.
He's really like irritating and unlikable, which is beautiful. It's why I like him because he's so unlikable. Um, he's doing really good work. So hopefully they find something to do with him. I would like to see fucking Bobby Lashley versus Mustafa Ali for the United States Championship.
There you go.
But they're
That's
not gonna. They're
something.
not. They're not at all gonna do that. They're not gonna. They're not
No.
even. No way they're gonna do that shit. Or if they do it, it's like Bobby Lashley wins in 3 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Um, is that the show? Have we like
I think
predicted it?
so. I mean, yeah, you could say there might be a random tag team title match there, either the New Day against someone or the Street Profits. But I mean, again, there's no obvious contenders. I guess
No.
because of the draft being just last week, and they're all like, it's just things are still settling down on both shows right now. So yeah, I guess it things will be clearer after the pay-per-view rather than before it, I guess.
Yeah, but hopefully in a good way.
Mm,
Like, we'll know more about it, and also things will be clearer and have been cleared up instead of just like we know more about stuff, but also it's even more confusing now. Which is what they have a habit of doing that shit. You know this. We've been looking for answers for Retribution for months now, and they're just like, well, here's more questions. I'm like, this is not what we wanted, man. We wanted definitive answers.
mm,
Um, yeah. Well, I guess let's just fucking wait and see, shall we?
yeah.
Um, so Hell in a Cell is gonna be on this Sunday. I don't know if we're gonna do a review of it next week. We might. Well, I think we'll watch it first, and then we'll make a decision. Um, and there might be some Halloweeny goodness for you guys as well. So make sure you stick around and subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends about our show as well, and make your friends listen to the show at gunpoint. Um, you're probably not supposed to go to your friend's house in lockdown, but fuck them.
I mean, if you've got a gun, it suggests you don't really care about the rules anyway, so.
Is that true? I feel like that's true in America, but over here you have to get like a gun license, and you have to like, you have to be very serious about it.
I was kind of thinking more in terms of like criminals, but hey
Yeah,
ho.
or just like in America, where it's
Yeah.
like, do you want a gun? Here you go. You know,
His you can get a gun with your Frosties.
right? Fucking Boris Johnson's like going down to Tesco. He's like, God, I wish this was more like America, where I could just go down and buy Frosties and a handgun. That's the dream. He's looking over at Donald Trump. He's like, that's the dream. Someday. And I'm like, I'd be happy enough if we didn't do that. Thank you. Because I think Northern Ireland has had enough guns for a lifetime. No more of that shit. Um, but anyway, I'm not talking about guns. I think that's it for the show, right?
I think so.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Make sure to follow us and to give us lots of money. uh, just out of the kindness of your hearts. And subscribe and all that fun stuff. And I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode. So take it easy, you scumbags. You lovely scumbags.